Good morning, everybody. Welcome to TFCC Live on Sundays. I hope these are helpful to all of you. Today we're going to be talking about the gut and the TFCC. I'm going to just kind of see who's joining in. Give a second. Hi, Stephanie. Let's see. Hi, Thorpe, 1992. All right. So I get started and I record these so you can look at them later. So I'm not going to wait for people to join. Just get started. All right. So back in 2008, when I started 7 actually, what I noticed is that there was a group of people that came to the clinic and had really dysfunctional, low weight-bearing tolerance for no reason at all. There was no fall, there was no accident, there was no heavy lift, there was no twist and pull, there was nothing. And so I took an interest in this after many of these cases started to come along. And I thought that I would do a little study. So I asked these people to go get stool tests. And then at the time, the stool tests were pretty standard. They weren't as sophisticated as they are today. And what happened over the course of a year is I enrolled 20 people. It was just my own little study. I didn't really do the IRB and the research design and all of that. I just did my own little study. Of the 20 that enrolled and were willing to do MRIs, X-rays, blood work, and stool tests, 18 of the 20 presented with significant pathologies in the gut. And when treated, their TFCC pain resolved. And so this is important. So then I started asking a lot of questions. I looked at naturopathic perspective. I looked at Eastern medicine perspective. And I started to see this trend. Now, since then, a lot has changed in the understanding of the gut microbiome, and the testing has become more sophisticated. So we're able to do DNA assessments and really look closely at the small details of the stool. So let's just talk about what gut health means. So you have the stomach. You eat food, it goes into your stomach. It goes through the duodenum down to the small intestines. The gallbladder is right in front of the liver. Liver's on the left. Stomach is on the right. The gallbladder kicks. Its function is to kick in enzymes to break down the food as it goes from the stomach into the small intestines, and then it gets digested and it moves out through the large intestine. So it's on the left side is where your stomach is, and then your small intestine is kind of around your belly button and a little bit over to your right hip, and then it moves up into the large intestine, goes back under your rib cage, and then out to the left, and then out. And every Eastern medicine philosopher says that all disease starts in the gut. And saying that there's a gut problem is a very wide and broad term. So there are, what I saw in these tests were parasites and protozoas. So the most common parasite is H. pylori and pinworms. And it can get a lot more. There's a lot of parasites and protozoas that are really difficult to diagnose. And so the extent of those understanding of what protozoa or what parasite is present in your stomach is an expensive endeavor, but it's important. Then you go into other things like bacterias, staph, strep. It goes on and on and on about the different bacteria that you can pick up wherever you live. There's a higher incidence of these bacteria. And so then there's a lot of other things that can cause stomach problems. If you have a trauma to your gut in any way, C-section, a hernia, hiatal hernia, any gut blows, any sort of arthroscopic surgery through the belly button can really interfere with the mobility of the gut. So what I see is, so we now understand the gut anatomy. We understand now what the different things that you're looking for, and it can be transient. So for instance, I had a case that was an elite tennis player, practiced all the time, been doing it for years, got a stomach flu, and went back to train on day 10 and then blew out her wrist. So the stomach flu is just a transient thing that you get, your body processes it, and then it goes away. But if your body's fighting that stomach flu, there is some connection to the weakness of the TFCC, and I'm hoping that we can start to see a correlation with the sophisticated tests that we have now, and kind of see if there's a correlation in the location and the trigger for the inflammation. So, one of the things that is really interesting about the TFCC is that it's more about the small intestine. The ECU is more about the gallbladder and the stomach. And let's talk about the symptoms. So the first thing that you'll experience if you have any sort of thing going on in your stomach is you'll see a change in your elimination of food. Your poop won't be normal. It won't be a banana shape and all together. It'll be a mixture of diarrhea and constipation, not a fully formed poop. So that's usually the first sign. The next is you can get indigestion or gassing and bloating, food sensitivities. And so you can get stomach pain. Usually it's right in the middle between the belly button and the right iliac crest of your hip. And so I ask people who have unusual presentation of low weight-bearing tolerance, ulnar-sided wrist pain that affects both hands to take a closer look at their gut. And so the things I say when I'm thinking about taking a closer look at your gut is be aware of what happens after you eat. What's going on with your elimination? Do you have bloating and gas? And then do you have any pain in the gut? So you can lie on your tummy, take a small soft ball and roll around your gut and just move around and press. And sometimes you'll be able to identify if it's sore in one particular area. Okay. So then the next thing is, well, what do you do about it? Okay, so the first is to understand it, and I really think that this is important because you can be spinning your wheels on diet for a long time, and if you just knew what was there, it will expedite a faster treatment. So I really encourage testing, and what's even more interesting about these cases is that none of them show up with any problems in their blood work. Their white blood count isn't high. Their eosinophil isn't unusually high. You don't see, unless it's really serious, and long-standing, you don't really see that in the blood work. So the stool test is important. Most people that do basic stool tests, they're not using the sophisticated equipment to analyze your stool. So I do like the Rupa Health. And this is really coming along and changing quickly. I want to talk to you just about this test because I'm looking at it right now. And let me just give you an idea of what is analyzed. They look at your intestinal permeability. They look at, with this information, they can understand your cardiovascular health. They can understand your metabolic health. So having issues in the gut will affect the heart. It'll affect the thyroid. It'll affect the nerves. It measures your neurological health. It measures if you have irritable bowel disease. It measures your hormones and see if that can affect your hormones. It measures your liver health, your nutrition, your autoimmune health, and if you have something called SIBO, which is small intestine bacterial infections. So it will look at fungi. It'll also look at how your body is digesting certain fats and proteins. And these are all little, one is called a fecal S100A12. It's a marker that distinguishes children with active IBD from healthy control subjects. The MMP9 is a really good indicator of gut health. And it just goes on and on. It measures enzymes, so pancreatic elastase, which is helpful in digestion, meat fiber, if any meat fiber is getting through the intestines, and vegetable fiber as well. It tells you if their fat is being absorbed, if you have cholesterol in the gut. It's such a wonderful test, and I think it's worth everybody looking at. They also have found that there's a correlation between gut enzymes and rheumatoid arthritis, gut enzymes and Parkinson's, gut enzymes and bacteria, microbiome, and Alzheimer's. So I think it's a wonderful technology that's going to be more available throughout the world. But this company you can FedEx from anywhere in the world, and it is an expensive test, but it's worth it. Okay. So, you're somebody who gets this test done, or a standard tool test, you rule out all of that, you know that there's something wrong, you treat it, and then what can you do at home? What can you do? What are some things that you can do at home? Turmeric is really good for the gut. Massage helps if the gut is not digesting food well. It tends to get stuck in the small intestine as it moves through the large intestine. And the mobility of the gut is just affected. So massaging your stomach will help it along. Magnesium, of course, helps with mobility. Caffeine helps with mobility. Eating fiber helps with mobility. One of the things that I say is stay away from a high meat diet when you have a TFCC tear. And vegetables take more energy to move through the gut. But meat tends to stay in the gut. So it's harder for the body to move that out. So I do recommend avoiding red meat and kind of sticking to more fibrous meals. Turmeric paste. Turmeric is one of nature's wonderful gifts, and it's expensive, but it is wonderful. It's curcumin. Probably the best bang for your buck if you're going to be doing curcumin is, instead of the pills, do the actual paste. This is a perfect example of a paste. It's you take a teaspoon of it 3 times a day, and it's you don't have to worry about that yellow staining. It's fresh, it's organic. It just is a paste that is mixed with ghee and black pepper. And I think that is done 3 times a day. It really does soothe the gut. Lemon is really good. Bentonite clay, if you put a little teaspoon in a glass of water and shake it, that will help absorb any waste along the intestinal walls. Okay, so magnesium, massage, turmeric, lemon, bentonite clay. I know many others are going to come to mind, but keeping hydrated is super important. All right. The other thing that's worth noting is that the ulnar-sided wrist pain that lights up when you have ulnar-sided wrist pain relative to your gut is you find that it's very dynamic. So you find that it's doing pretty good, but then it just kind of lights up, and it may light up after you eat. And so you want to start paying attention to when those symptoms present and what time of the day, and see if you can correlate it to what you ate and when you ate. The other thing is that it's really good to give your gut a 12-hour break from digestion. So you're, go to bed at 10 o'clock at night and don't eat till 10. And there's a lot of discussion about this, but I think that's a really good idea. I'd also read up on celery juice. There's a big push in America on the celery diet thing, and I think it's worth reading about, where you basically just throw a head of celery into a blender, blend it up, strain out the fiber, and drink that in the morning before you put anything in your mouth. Okay. Now, Some people who have indigestion, it's what the Eastern medicine docs call heat in the gut. And so you have too much enzymes coming out from your pancreas and your gallbladder. And that creates this heat. And so you would need cooling things for that. So cucumber, melons, lemon, cooling stuff to calm that heat. Other people have lack of enzymes, and it's called the lack of heat, so it's cold. And so these group of people do really well with papaya enzymes, or just chewing up a papaya seed, or a grapefruit seed extract really will help give a little bit of enzymes to the gut to help with digestion. Now, how they affect the wrist is interesting. People that have indigestion tend to have more ECU involvement and tendinitis. People who have lack of gallbladder enzymes, they tend to have lateral epicondylitis. So once you get into the small intestine is when you start to see the TFCC symptoms arise. And so listen closely to your symptoms and see if there's any correlation to how you feel. And just know that there is a connection that it's probably a nerve-brain connection that goes from the ulnar side of the wrist up into the gut and then over onto the other side. All right, I'm going to take questions now. I think I covered everything. So let's hear. What kind of questions do you guys have? Okay, so if you get to the point where you've had a long-standing gut issue, you're not digesting well, your stomach is chronically inflamed, what you start to see is nerve problems. And ulnar nerve is usually, radial nerve is usually thyroid. So that's your B12s, your B6s. And, if you've had this, I would highly recommend that you take an extra supplements of B12, rapidly absorbing. Don't take pills that require to be digested. Take liquids or something that you suck. If you've got ulnar-sided stuff, you want to take a liquid iron. If you have radial-sided stuff, you want to take a more magnesium, sodium, potassium, salt, and B's and zinc. So you have to recognize that your stomach's not absorbing, and therefore you're not getting the nutrition you need, and therefore it's going to start causing nerve symptoms. And this is really, really interesting. So if you've got nerve problems, your cubital tunnel, your elbow, your shoulder, your neck, you're feeling kind of antsy, you're not sleeping well, you're tired, okay, when it's iron, it's usually tired. When it's thyroid, it affects the sleep, and it affects that ability to focus. If it's fungal, you'll get kind of all of it. It'll all be affected. So you'll also, if it's parasitic, you'll usually crave caffeine and sugar. So okay, so the symptoms in the wrist and the state of the gut are interconnected. Okay. So your pain is tolerable. What's the name of the specific gut test? Okay, I'm going to show you. It's called the Comprehensive Gut Analysis. It's a, let's see. Let me make it sure it's very, it's called a gut zoomer. And it's a comprehensive digestive analysis, and this is from let's see, Rupa Health. So if you go and you have the test done, and you have your primary care doctor order the test. They send you a FedEx box. You collect your stool. You send it back in, no matter where you are on the planet. And the results of the test are sent to your doctor. A lot of doctors aren't really up to speed on all of this. So if what I usually do is try to get a copy of the study. So ask your doctor for a copy of the study. Bring it home and look at it. And if you see so many things out of the normal ranges, then I'd recommend that you work with a naturopathic medicine doctor. And there are a lot of them that are good. But I've worked with Dr. Skinner at Cypress Naturopath for 22 years. He worked at Stanford. His clinic was outside of Stanford, and he's always been on the leading edge of knowledge. And he takes people by Zoom and does a really good analysis. A lot of this is expensive, I recognize that, but it's I think you do a 15-minute free consult, and the first test time between 30, 45, and 60 minutes run about $100 to $300. The stool test will be covered by most insurances, but if it's not, it costs about $400 kind of after all of it. So it's a hefty expense, but I think it's a worthy expense. Okay. Lingering ECU issues here, but healed TFCC. GI with zonulin add-on. Yep. Yeah. You had indigestion symptoms and long-standing, and the indigestion and that ECU are connected. So what I would try is icing your gut and maybe taking a 12-hour break from food and see if that calms that heat. And then while your heat is calming, really work on stretching that, massaging that ECU out and stretching that ECU. That's a really good example of what symptoms the gut creates. Yeah. It was interesting in Europe not seeing any difficult to find naturopathic doctors. It's really nice that this pandemic has caused everybody to go on Zoom. And so you can access all of these people who are good at this online now, which is really lovely. So send your experiences in. I've worked with Skinner for so long, so I know his skill. I'm really pleased with who Shannon is working with. I think they've led her really beautifully down the road that she needed to go. So chronic heartburn. Okay, so yeah. And I know you say that's genetic, but I know that there's things you can do to calm that down. The 12-hour fasting every day is helpful. The cooling ginger, lemon, turmeric teas or supplements, is good as well. Okay. I think I try really hard to keep this very simple so that everybody can understand what I'm talking about and understand their bodies better. I can go into the details of this in depth for days. So send your questions that you have. Forgot to mention something. Psyllium seed is a really good thing to take to help fiber. If you could take that every night, Shannon, see how that helps, that would be good. Okay. But anyways, I'm hoping to collect some data on this. So if you do get your studies done and you do have a really good objective case, send them my way, and we'll put you in a group of people, and we'll look at details and symptoms, and as we gather and pay attention to a broader group of people, I think we might be able to get more specific. All right, I've got 4 minutes. Any questions? Any questions? Let's see. Yeah. Oh, and then if you're having a gut issue, let's say you get the stomach flu, take down the load on your wrist a little bit for just 21 days and let that resolve, and that'll keep your TFCC out of the woods. And yeah, I guess that's it. It's nice to be here with you guys. I hope this is helpful. I'll see you next Sunday. We're going to be talking about the ECU, Shannon. I'll see you then. And happy healing. Aloha. Bye.